Get that on.
Better read it, Chip.
Mhm.
Better read it.
Sort of.
11, 12 maybe.
I'll get mine out. Chip, I have just written on you.
That's all right.
Hear
I'll have to wait a couple of minutes.
All right.
me, Sharon?
No, I did.
You show me how much our total bond.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I said you guys are more conservative. than us.
Bonding was probably the most done in a long time.
Okay.
We sweat it out there sometimes.
Are we all ready?
We're ready.
Okay, sooner we do it, sooner we'll get at it. I want to call to order the regular council meeting for Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. And Teresa, will you call the roll?
Mayor Chip Dutcher,
Here.
Cheryl Robertson,
Here.
Doug Lehner,
Here.
Marvin Block,
Here.
Ben Lee,
Here.
Sharon Hendren,
Here.
Carol Van Diest.
We'll do the invocation. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for our town, our city, all of our employees, and all of our residents. Will you look after them, bless them, and keep them safe? In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we have the citizen comments, the mayor would like to make a few comments. As many of you know, I had COVID and I recovered. I've got a letter from the county health department saying I'm okay. So, but for all of those who helped me get through this, I'm very grateful. I had not only a great physician, but lots of friends and neighbors and who looked after me and took good care of me and made sure they wouldn't come in, but because I was isolating, but they brought food to the door and I was very grateful for that. And, but I want to thank everyone here. As you know, I wasn't here last Tuesday, but I was watching on the screen and until it got cut off. But I'm very grateful and I appreciate everybody's concern and looking forward to a new year. So we got business to finish up tonight. So we're going to move right ahead. So first up are citizen comments on matters not on the agenda. If anybody has anything they want to bring to our attention, the microphone is yours. And we just ask you to state your name and where you live and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
This evening. Kind of winging it. My name's Robert Reffett. I live just up street in Alexandria. But the reason I'm here is my wife is one of the dispatchers for the police department. I know there's been some talk on getting rid of dispatch and all that good stuff, but it just don't seem to be getting very straight answers as far as what happens to the employees that don't want to leave if they're just getting fired. You know, I mean, she's been told a few things that has changed. So I'm just trying to find out from counsel on what's happening with that and. your
Okay.
comments.
Okay, yes,
Jack?
council forwarded your letter to me or email. Let me correct that, to me. And so today in executive session, we're going to discuss that whole situation to try to get some clarity on what has happened and what's going to happen. And then you will receive an email back after we have a chance to discuss it. As you know, it just came in the other day, and trying to get the council all together to discuss it. We thought tonight would be the time to do that. And then we'll get back with you on an answer of how that is all going to work out.
Understandable. Okay.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems that there's kind of some other things. That I
We
thought
agree
was
there has been some
weird and-
confusion.
Mhm.
And again, we're going to work really hard tonight to get it clarified tonight to get you an answer tomorrow.
Okay. We'll just go from there.
Yes, sir.
All right, I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Great.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? If not, we're gonna move right along. Next up, the committee. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have.
I'm sorry.
Logan Malone. I
Yep.
live on Elm Street.
Mhm.
I was here yesterday. I'm speaking to the planning and zoning about a variance for the old church property. There was a lot of kind of misunderstanding between myself and some of the staff members and the board members. And a couple of them actually encouraged me to come in tonight. One, I had some questions about if there was any sort of appeals or anything could be done there. I didn't really get any straight answer on that, so I was curious about that. Also, a couple of the members I spoke to encouraged me to bring up possibly a refund on the permit since there was a confusion there. They said that was a council thing. So I just wanted to see if we get some clarification at all on that, and just wanted to, you miss all the shots you don't take, right? So
What I would like to do here, I found out about this today. and I had some discussion. And I do think we have clarity on filings and things like that. So I would like to turn it over to Bailey to give a quick background of what happened at the meeting, what the vote was, and that he can ask for a variance or whatever. Now refunds, obviously, they have to come at control of council. That's not a staff decision. Bailey, if you would run down what happened.
Mr. Malone applied for a conditional use to operate an event space out of the church that's on the corner of Main Street and Douglas. That conditional use was forwarded to council and they took it up at the November 23rd meeting for planning and zoning. Planning and zoning tabled it on the 23rd for further clarification and thought and decision-making. And they took it back up last night at a special meeting and decided to deny that application. The reason it was sent forward as a conditional use is because in UR1, community space and community gathering space is listed as a conditional use. And after some legal advice, it was determined that an event space could be interpreted as a community space, but that interpretation is left up to the Planning and Zoning Board. So staff does not make that decision. The Planning and Zoning Board does. After their deliberation, Planning and Zoning decided that they did not agree with that interpretation, and they decided to deny the application. It wasn't a personal decision based on the applicant or based on the business. It was a decision based on zoning and the repercussions that that decision would have in the future on future applications. So it was a decision that is their role to make, and it's, their responsibility to make, and they made that last night.
And what was the vote, just so council knows?
The vote was a 5-0 vote to well, the motion was to approve the application and it failed 5-0.
So at this point, Ben, do you have anything from planning zoning you'd like to add?
No, Bailey summed up pretty concisely the conversation and ultimately the way that these are handled in terms of my interpretation is that when you have situations where there's some gray space with respect to how something could be interpreted, it's a suggested method and process by which something is requested to be submitted and reviewed by planning and zoning. Talking about this specific application, my interpretation in that general public facilities such as public libraries, municipal buildings, and community buildings hold innately themselves a more public space than commercial space type of connotation and definition, that what it was being requested by the applicant wouldn't fit within this specific context. And thus using the planning and zoning as an exclusionary document, whereas anything not included is excluded, this wouldn't fit within that particular definition. And having a commercial enterprise within a residential space is a slippery slope type of conversation, because it would set a precedence for anything else within, UR1, UR2, and you could probably even take it to any other residential area that's similarly density, with similar density. And so in that it was denied, any other way that this could have come to planning and zoning, a variance most likely would have had the similar outcome. A map amendment probably would have had a similar outcome, because that would look at, you'd be talking about spot zoning in that type of situation. And the application fee for these types of applications that are submitted generally go to staff review time, postage, mailers and things like that, general public notices and what have you. So,
So I do believe was review time in there to look to see how it would fit in with the zoning. But as always, it is up to council to decide whether they would want to return a fee or not. And I think the staff reviewed it, acted appropriately, left it to the P and Z to vote. They voted 5-0. And now an appeal, there is a right of appeal that we talked about. And Bailey, can you tell us who that appeal is with?
I believe that an appeal of a decision of planning and zoning would go to council, but I'm not totally clear on that. So I request the time to review that and check.
And also there is a fee for the appeal. So I want to make sure that Mr. Malone understands that if you do wish to appeal, I think it's $150 to that appeal. And, on one hand, you're requesting some fees back, but then in this case, there would have to be $150 for the appeal. So I want to get that out there. And Bailey did have a very short time, but we both believe that the appeal does come directly to council, but we want to verify that before we make that bold statement.
and if I could just add one more piece, in situations like this, the direction, as I understand it, that's given to applicants in this space is an interpretation of what the code is, and the fee is paid for those specific purposes, but not a situation where it's the method or the manner in which the application is submitted and reviewed necessarily assures that it will be passed, because there are 5 different opinions sometimes, but 5 opinions within the commission that look at it and interpret it in different ways. So just to put that forth, that it's a recommendation and it comes through that way. And as an applicant, the applicant has the ability to take the recommendation or seek out any other way that they would want to apply for what they're asking for. So staff does the best job that they can to make sure that it's put in the most appropriate manner, but it doesn't guarantee that it's going to pass.
So in order to give you time, Bailey, to research this and talk with the attorney, etc., could we take this under advisement until January, and then we'll bring it back up?
Yes.
And I think we'll have an answer for you then, and we'll go from there. Does that work for everybody?
I got a
Any
couple,
other council members want to weigh in?
Yeah. What's the difference in what you're wanting to do, Mr. Malone, and what's been done there in the past?
As far as I understand, it's the fact that I'm for profit.
I'm sorry, can you step up to the microphone?
Sorry.
Okay, I just want to be able to hear you.
So that question came up. That building has had weddings, it's had events, it's had funerals, it's had soup suppers, it's had everything you could possibly imagine over the last 120 years. The only difference now is I would be a for-profit business, not a church. Everything else stays exactly the same. The amount of traffic, all of that. The only thing that is different is being a profit business, I would be a revenue generator for the city. And a church obviously doesn't.
It's not.
So I was advised the reason that I'm so frustrated with this, I talked to so many people and nobody gave me any negative anything. They're like, oh, you'll be fine. It shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. And if it was so black and white that this wasn't compatible with a residential area, I feel like I could have known that 6 months ago or 4 months ago, whenever it was.
Right.
But nobody told me that. I spoke with Bailey, I spoke with Jim, I spoke with Ryan Green. I spoke with so many different people and none of those red flags came up until these meetings. And last night when they voted and they're just like, oh yeah, there's no way that's going to work. That was the first time I'd heard that much negativity in the last 6 months that I've been talking about this project. In the last 3 months, we've done an extensive amount of work to the building and the property, and we have cleaned it up a lot. It has been pretty much abandoned for 10 years now. The church has had bats in it and all the overgrowth, and it's been pretty rough. And I have definitely taken pride in restoring that and making our community look good. And all I want to do is use it. That's all I want to do. I respect the neighbors. I respect everybody in that community that lives around there. I understand their concerns and I hear their concerns. I was willing with this conditional use. I know that comes with conditions. They could put conditions on it. I was told operating as a church that right now there is nothing on the books that says they can't have outdoor events. There's nothing on the books that really controls really what a church can do in that area. Going forward with a conditional use, you could put conditions on it instead of the 11. They could, go down to like a 9 p.m. or any of that. It would control and give them more control about what happens in that area. So
Go
ahead.
I think one problem you might have when you start talking about it being a church, hasn't been used as a church for over 10 years.
Right.
They did have meetings in the hall there, but that wasn't church meetings, and that was grandfathered in as a church. But after 2 years of non-use, it reverts back to the former zoning, which would be residential.
So
And
let
me
what
finish.
they told me there was they are technically a church that uses the property. And since it's together, it's been in use the whole time. Because Central Ohio Youth for Christ is a church organization that has been using it. And they meet twice a week.
Which church, which one, you talking about the old brick church or the other one beside it?
The fellowship hall is what they use.
Fellowship Hall.
Fellowship Hall
You
and
purchased
the
it?
church, right?
So we're in the process of purchasing the whole property.
I think that's great. Somebody's taking it over.
Right.
And what type of events will you have?
So the idea was weddings mainly. We started a Facebook page. We wanted to call it the Estella Event Center. It's my grandmother's middle name. She was married in that church. And we wanted to use it for church, for weddings and receptions and parties and stuff like that. The same thing it's been used for.
So the residents don't want you using it.
There were 3 that showed up, 3 families that showed up. Of the 9 letters that I sent, 3 showed up.
Well, I notice that all the time. I'm glad somebody's doing something to it.
I think we will let Bailey do her homework and talk to attorneys, and then we will get back to you in January I would say it probably won't be the meeting on the 4th.
Okay.
I would say it would be the second meeting,
Fair enough.
and we'll give you an answer,
I appreciate it.
and we'll see what we can do, and still try to figure something out.
Okay. Thank you.
And again, I'm not for or against here, but I want to say, what Bailey is investigating is his right of appeal and who the appeal goes to,
Right.
not a decision
Right.
of yes or no.
No,
That
I
again would
understand that.
fall. Well, the P and Z has already voted on it, so whoever the review board is, then will be.
Whether
making
it's
that
us or
decision.
whether it's,
Yes.
and then,
Okay. Just wanted clarification. She's
Right.
not going to come to you with a decision.
Right.
She's going to come with you a decision on how to appeal.
Perfect.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
anybody else? If not, we'll move on. Next up are committee reports. Planning and zoning met last night, as we heard. And Bailey, you want to share
That
whatever you want to share?
that application was the only thing we considered.
Okay. And so there wasn't any other action taken?
No.
And the next meeting is in the 25th of January. So they get a little time off. Next up, the safety and service. It met last Monday, I think. It was updated last time, so there's no need to update tonight. Finance met this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to Dana and to Ben, and will lead us through the report of the finance committee.
All right. Everybody stretch,
Yeah.
okay? Decent number of things at the end of the year that we've had some answers really in the last 7 days that we have going forward here. So Dana, I know you'll hit a lot on your director report and stuff like that. But and budget we'll kind of save for the end. I'll let you give the good news from that. Let's see here. Marvin, I know you ask a lot about New Day and the contracts that we have with New Day. Jack gave us an update about the New Day water usage. And there's a report that is forthcoming on that, but it looks as if for the year, they will be short relative to the contracted amount on their water usage. However, it sounds as if from the city standpoint, it's an amicable situation and we're okay with that. So
Now the wastewater on the other side,
wastewater is well over,
well over.
Well over.
contracted
but it sounds as if you'll have some reports in the new year.
amount. Absolutely. Meeting in January, I would like to have those for you.
So in finance, we talked about because we are under the contracted amount for water, but it's amicable to both parties. Unless anybody has any opposition, just that we have an email or something in writing between New Day leadership and Jack to say that's okay for this year. But without doing that, it might be perceived as creating a new standard within that contract, and we have those limits in there for a reason. So no, that's it for that piece. So go ahead.
Okay. If you guys are okay with it and Jack's okay with it, I think we should have council's backing for Jack to write that letter to them.
Sure.
So if you guys are all okay with it.
Yeah.
And it's a good idea
do
to
we
put
need
it in
a-
their file, so they can't come back in 3 years and say, well, you
No.
didn't make us pay the last time.
Right. Mhm.
If Jack wants to just, do we need
I think we need a vote. I'm
a
for it.
resolution? We can do that.
What do you think?
Are you
I'm
good?
good. Yeah, do we need a motion for that though?
No, just Jack, verbal's okay with you?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and get
Okay.
that letter so they understand this was a 1 year
1
situation.
year, yeah,
We'll move forward from there.
that's good for everybody.
Yes, the ARPA funding. So this is a two-parter. The state round 3 designations for their grant, infrastructure grants. Projects came out, and for the third time in 3 rounds, we were not on it with respect to the Hartford water line conversation, tap, and capacity infrastructure and things like that up in Croton. through those meetings that we've had, it's been made well aware that with Johnstown's willingness to deliver water to Hartford, the Hartford Fairgrounds and the Village of Hartford, that it would be in partnership with the county, with the use of the county ARPA funds, $0 out of pocket for the city. That we would be, maintaining infrastructure afterwards and giving them that water that they had requested. Without this piece from the state, there is a desire on finance that we do not move forward with that conversation, which most likely means there's going to be a conversation with Delco as we've understood it at the last meeting. That may have changed between now and then, but the vote that we took in finance 3-0 was to move on from the Hartford water line conversation and inform the Fair Board and whomever else was a part of those conversations that we will not be moving forward with that unless there's some drastic change in the finance realm, which doesn't seem.
How many rounds do they have that?
They
This
had
is the
3.
third
This
one.
is it.
That was it.
So wanted to put that out there, wanted to get a formal vote from council because it was a big conversation and a big topic that if we're on the same page with that, then we'll deliver that message. But wanted to put that out there. If anybody has any comments or concerns or opposition, what have you.
Like a comment. Jack heard the conversation. Mark Frazier called me today. And I jumped him about that. I said, the governor's not listening to you, Mark. And he said that it's not over yet. He's still wanting to try. So I told him to call us back when he had some money.
Yeah.
At this point, with the information that we know,
I
we've got
agree with you.
other projects we can move on to unless there's new.
We had other things to do.
More money comes down, we can open a decision back up or
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, but I don't know if the conditions that we put on there would change in the near term at least.
And shouldn't.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So we have that. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we deliver that information and move on from the Hartford waterline conversation and deliver that news to the Fair Board and whomever else.
Yeah,
I'll
Fair
second.
Board, and I will let, I believe Terry Wise is still the administrator for, I will contact her as well.
You want to do a roll call, Teresa, if you don't mind?
Who was the second?
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Doug Lehner,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Peter Dutcher,
Yes.
Sharon Hendrick.
Yes.
Okay, so the second part of that is with the county ARPA funds that are up there. There was discussion in safety and service, and I think a couple finance meetings about putting in a request that is Johnstown centric to those dollars that are out there. At the last, everything's running together. I think it was the last council meeting a week ago, 2 weeks ago. We talked about,
Last week.
was it last week? I'm
yeah.
not sure. Is it 2022? I don't even know. So we talked about putting in for the sewer lining project, which we do, and just looking to, instead of $100,000 at 2 blocks, do a larger project and utilize some of the county ARPA funds and some of our funds as requested in the policy to do that. It's just what was that project total and what was the baseline is what we needed to come up with, which is again, a part of the reason why we had the finance meeting tonight. So in finance, what we talked about, despite what this document says, what we are proposing to put in is $150,000, which is half of the non-revenue replacement ARPA funds that we have, which could be designated to water, sewer infrastructure, broadband, et cetera. But $150,000 of village ARPA, city ARPA funds to go toward a $500,000 total project. So we would ask for $350,000 from to go toward that sewer lining project that will continue to bring efficiencies to the sewer plant, continue to get that out of the plant and make it more efficient.
Now, added expense that we don't have in those two numbers is the engineering, which cannot be part
Correct.
of the ARPA funds according
But
to the
we'll pay
application.
for it.
So hold that out there that there's going to be a little bit of engineering. And I'll have that number soon.
But that's within the utility departments, which are fine. We can
Correct.
do that.
You are correct.
The biggest caveat besides that number is that one of the requirements within the policy is that the relative rate for what is being requested, so in this case sewer, it would need to be capped at 10 to 15% increase over 10 years. That is something that finance is not comfortable with because it does not fall in line with our 10-year plan for how we justified the bonded funds 2 years ago. So it is a suggestion in the policy, but that is not something that we are going to adhere to. And we feel like we have a good argument against adhering to that because we already have pieces in place that we need to maintain those multi-million dollar bonded funds as a priority. So I think those are the two things from this request that I wanted to put out there. Are there any questions on that? Because, well, again, we voted 3-0 to move forward with that, and we wanted to bring it to council for a similar vote.
Did they ever tell us what, they said they wanted us to have some skin in the game? I know there's talk about that up there, but was they wanting us to put up 10% on projects, the county, or
50% of ARPA funds.
50% of our ARPA funds that come to the village, they want in the game, which is being represented by the 150,000
Correct.
that that's a suggested amount. And so our application is going to go with the 150,000 of the ARPA funds you receive to go as our share of this project.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, objections? Okay.
You want a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Did you get that, Teresa?
Mayor Dutcher, were you the second?
I'm the second.
To approve what Ben said.
Okay. Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Paul Robertson,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher.
Yes.
Sharon Hendren.
Yes.
Doug Lehner.
Yes.
Okay, the next item we have is the Build Back Better grant program specifically tied to our mobility project. Got a lot of offers. This is another offer. We're 0 for 1 in this one. We will not be getting our portion of the $75 million as we had requested from the federal government toward the mobility grant, which is that large visionary project that we have local partnership with. However, as it has been discussed, there has been a conversation to make sure that the city is still vested in the vision and the project going forward. There needs to be some additional conversations with the partners involved about where to go next from a funding perspective, but the question was asked, and Mayor, I think, has done a good job too at reiterating our commitment and conversations with them. We voted 3-0 in finance to continue to be committed to this project and the vision going forward, but continue to keep the dialogue open so that when it comes to a point as to what the financial obligations are of all the partners, we at least still have a seat at that table and we give the support locally to those businesses that are doing this and driving this forward. It would benefit the entire region at the end of the day. So we again wanted to take a vote from council in support of this so that the conversations that are had can be taken back and shared as such.
Question, since Jack is trying to get up to par on that stuff. Chip's been talking with him some. What do you think about, if we'll go ahead and approve it, and then Jack and Chip and Dana, or Bailey and Teresa sit in on a couple meetings with them and make sure we're all on the same page and you represent the council? Does that sound fair to the rest of the council?
Yeah, I'll be happy to.
Does it sound fair to Teresa?
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what?
Whoever else wants to join in the pain of sitting
No,
through those meetings, I'll be happy to
I
have
think if
them.
they see that many come in.
They
the
know we're-
staff and you
You know,
and Jack, they'll know that we're serious about it. And
Right.
wanna continue.
I'm gonna do the meeting on, they're having a meeting on this Friday, so we'll know a little more. And I'm gonna do it via Zoom from sunny Florida. And I expect that they will have further meetings in January and that we'll make sure they know we want to come and would be represented, and whoever wants to come as well.
So you a place
Is that an in-person meeting or is this all Zoom?
This, I think, is a phone meeting. I think this is a phone meeting.
This isn't a
Bailey, is this a
get-together
phone
meeting.
meeting or
I think
in
it's a get
person?
together meeting.
I think it's a meeting in our meeting room,
Oh, it's in person?
10:30.
Okay, well, I will call in.
Yeah, we have a call-in meeting.
Okay.
set up.
Absolutely, but
I'm not
I'm
gonna
just
be-
letting the rest of council know, I do think this.
And
is
if anybody wants to come.
An in-person meeting.
I'll move that we continue on with the project.
I'll second.
Finley,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Ed Dutcher,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren.
Yes.
Doug Lehner,
Yes.
Robin Block.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
The last thing that is needed before we get into the good budget news is about the SIB loan, the Straight Infrastructure Bank loan, specifically tied to the intersection project at Sportsman's Club in 62. So where we're at with this, I can give the background, or if you want to change a venue, Jack can give the background, so you're somebody else talked. It doesn't matter to me. If you have it in front of you, can give the genesis from the 1.1 to where we are right now,
Okay.
and I'll give the breakout in the.
There you go. Yes, as I'm coming up to speed on this project, I talked with the engineers, Jim Roberts from Hall Engineering. And basically, this project started out at a $1.1 million project, which was going to straighten Sportsman's Club into State Route 62, take the odd angle out and have a light there. From then, we have grown to determine that due to traffic flow and the amount of cars that will be coming out of the businesses there on Sportsman's Club, the roundabout is going to be a much better mechanism to keep traffic flowing. So that is actually a more expensive alternative. You're taking more ground than a light, obviously. So the project grew based off of that to $1.8 million. So that did not include all of the additional engineering, the construction inspection, the construction administration, and right-of-way takes. With the option that council chose to look at on the roundabout, it took a little more in the way of right-of-way takes because we have to take both sides of the road instead of one. However, I do agree the alignment looks a whole lot better by doing it that way. So the all-in cost for this project has moved to $2.6 million, of which $2 million of that will become from SIB loans. Now, we have to apply for that. We feel very good that that's a doable and we will get that. But I brought those numbers to council for approval before I sign the applications to request those SIB loans. I'll hand back off to you, Ben.
Yeah, and I'll just say all of this stuff, literally like the last 7 days has come through.
And I would point out that there's other state monies involved in this
Yes.
project. that
Yeah,
they
so-
are still on the hook for.
2.6 million is the total all in. We've got $600,000 from 2 different ODOT funds, which puts our SIB liabilities at 2 million. 0 interest loan, 20 years. And that's where we'll land with that. And that would be the ask of the application. And that is it for that project. And we will push forward on that, and finance feels good about where that puts us from a debt service standpoint, the way that things are trending and how they've actualized at the end of this year, and how we've even improved the budget within the last 3 hours relative to what we had last week. So with that being said, the resolution that we'll reference is Resolution 2021-43, which we had earlier this year. It's not in the packet, but we had it earlier this year, which we, I think, did approve that in conjunction with the conversation about the design of the roundabout. And when we landed on that design, that's how we got to this all in tonight at 2.6. So because we're under the timeline of wanting to get this application in, we would just ask for a vote from the council to give Jack the ability to put his signature on that and direct Hall to move forward with that application. So that is that piece. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Just for the public, it's here. The reason I'm for this roundabout is Jack knows when you put a red light in, you have the controls and things. Red lights lifespan's what, 10 years?
If you're lucky.
And the controls are less. And every time we have them come out and adjust the control, these lights up here, how much does it cost us, Jack?
We're in the thousands, 5 to 10,000.
Every time we adjust a traffic light, and those controls go out, and that's a lot of money. So that's the reason that we're going to spend more money to save money in the long run.
100%. You got it. Anything else? So we'll do a motion in a second and then a roll call. I'll make the motion to move forward with it.
I'll second.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren,
Yes.
Doug Lehner.
Yes.
Marvin Blog,
Yes.
Ben Lee.
Yes. Last piece out of finance, I'll let Dana give the good news with respect to where we're actualizing this year relative to what we thought we were going to be. And then when we get to the budget ordinance coming up, the good news about the other pieces that we were able to put into the budget that we'll entertain as the budget we're passing tonight as a result of that. So Dana?
Thank you. Is this on? We're
Yes.
gonna,
You're on.
we're gonna end the year 2021 with just under 2.6 million in income tax revenue, which is about 480,000 more than we had budgeted for the year. I'm sorry, more than we had collected in 2020. We had collected 2.1 million in 2020 and 2.58 million in 2021. Therefore, we have extra income tax revenue to carry forward into 22. So our general fund balance is going to be in a good position to start off the year. And we're able to do some additional roadway projects, crack sealing and micro sealing due to these additional funds. And obviously you all know that 28% of our income tax goes into the debt service and the CIP. So all the money that we accumulate additionally will better those funds as well.
We're in a good spot, essentially. So we're ending the year good. We're ending the year in a good spot, and then hopefully we'll have some even better news with how the balance of December is actualizing here when we get back in January. So I think that is it from finance until we get to the budget, and then we'll just outline those couple of changes. So
Okay. Economic Development did not meet and canceled, and it will next meet on the 6th of January. And I think then you had an events meeting last night. Who's going to talk about that?
yeah, just real quick, I'll go over events. It was really about July 4th planning and things like that. And where we've landed is really, we've landed the day of, and Ryan, you were there too, correct me if I'm missing anything here. Day of events. We kind of had the timeline down, which is very similar. Food trucks, more food trucks and closer. Heard that loud and clear. So that's good. I think Chief has already put out, or will be putting out on Facebook.
Finished.
Finished putting out on Facebook a call out for any other interested parties that want to participate from a food truck perspective. Tiffany Hollis was there last night, wanting to be involved in the events committee, which is great. So she's going to be helping us from that standpoint too. And anything else that she can help there is great. And then we talked about additional events around that participants were asking for, like bounce houses and face painting and things like that in the area. And then how we can better connect Belt Park and stuff like that to the fireworks location, which was an ask too. So we'll have another meeting in January 24th. We'll have another meeting, and we'll send that out to include the school, which has helped us before, as well as JYAA and the fire department, so that we're all on the same page and we can keep moving forward with this. The big item that we came out of the meeting last night was really from a funding perspective. And what we're going to be doing is going out and looking for sponsorships locally for folks that want to donate at different levels. We kind of hammered out some of those specifics that would be included at those different levels: $5,000, $2,500, $1,000, $500, and $250. I think is where we landed. So did I miss anything, Ryan? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. TBD on that, yeah. But yeah, so it was a really good meeting, grounded us, have a good idea moving forward, and then January was really get the ball rolling here, but it's good stuff. Anything else, Doug? Anything else?
That's great. Next up is director reports. Dana, I don't know whether you have a separate finance report for now, or you're gonna save it all for the budget.
I do. Did you want to go first?
Oh, yeah, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'm gonna jump in there real quick. I didn't have a director's report.
Okay,
Last week I was on vacation and this council meeting came very quickly.
okay.
So I didn't have anything prepared formally in that end. But with that said, I did want to take the opportunity to go over my goals that were set with Mr. Leonard this year and the ones that I made and the ones that I didn't make. Before I begin, I would like to start off with saying that the Johnstown Police Department has undergone some significant modifications and changes this year, both procedurally and operationally. And it's been a challenge for the staff. With that said, I think that we've made excellent progress, and I wanted to take this opportunity to thank every council member, even the ones that are not in attendance, for your support and the tools necessary in order to do the job out there. And I will say that the fruits of that they're evident out in the community. I think that we're getting great feedback. I think the streets are looking amazing, and it really is a great place to be. So I would like to say thank you, council, for your support this year. With that said, I'll get right into my goals. So goal one, I wanted to create a report that created an allocated time of what an officer does in 1 hour. So in my direct reports, you do see that little chart that says, hey, this is what your officers are doing, and bang that you get the buck. The FBI has a generic formula of how many officers are needed per population kappa. However, I feel that that's skewed, and it kind of doesn't really have a lot of legitimacy, because I feel that the community's needs are as unique as the people that live within that community. The second goal that I set was to limit printing documents. So when I first started here, everybody printed everything. And Mr. Lee, you know that I know that it costs 9 cents to create a color copy, and it's far, far cheaper for black and white. But I wanted to get as close to I possibly could as a paperless system. There's still a long way to go. But I have made some strides in the limited amount of documents that we're doing at the department, and I think that we're making good headway there. Goal 3 was to gain unquestionable lease compliance. And again, thanks council for supplying the money in order to kind of enhance our lobby area. That one thing alone, as well as inspections on leads material within the department, has really got us to that goal. Goal 4 was to increase training across the entire staff. That was including my focus on the needs of supervision to make sure that they get in training, and then my intent to send another supervisor to command school, which also happened as well. So trainings looked fantastic, and I was able to get the supervisors trained accordingly. And then my last goal is to maintain staffing. That's where I fell short. So I will say that I lost 2 employees in 2021. So I failed in that area. I'm welcome to any questions if you have them.
Questions for the chief?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Dana,
I do have a report for council. However, these numbers are as of November 30th, and we already got the good news, which goes through December 31st. So I feel like this is kind of old news here. But anyway, we're still trending upward in all of our income tax receipt buckets, withholding, individual, and net profit. Oh, and by the way, the net profit loss was due to Coughlin. In finance committee, there was some discussion about there was a decrease, even though it's showing an increase over 2020, the 190 versus the 142. From last month's report, that had gone down slightly, and Coughlin was the one they were receiving a refund. For the rest of my report, there isn't anything that's really worth noting. I can talk to the budget whenever we get there, if that's okay. But if anyone has questions, I'd be more than happy.
questions for Dana? Thank you very much, and we'll hear from you again shortly. There's no tabled legislation, so we'll move on
Mr.
to
Mayor,
public hearing on legislation.
would it be appropriate to ask for executive session 12 to be moved up to this item?
I'd rather do it at the end.
You want to do it at the end?
I'd just rather do it.
Okay.
So if nobody else has a problem with that, we'll do it at the end.
That's good.
And that'll be the last thing, that last piece of business, and we will adjourn after that. So next up is ordinance 47-2021. An ordinance to approve expenses and other expenditures of the city of Johnstown, Licking County, state of Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022. So this is the budget. And Dana, are you going to lead us through this?
Sure, I can, obviously I can talk about this for a long time, but I don't want to do that for everybody and keep them here. But I'll just go over some of the highlights. So
Highlights.
we've budgeted 2.6 million in municipal income tax revenue. And that's the highest we've ever budgeted since I've been here. So I feel like that is probably still a conservative budget, given the fact that we are collecting just under 2.6 this year. And our income taxes have gone up steadily for the past 7 years. So we do have some money going back into the budget stabilization fund. So our council goal to increase that back to 500,000 is starting to happen slowly. But we are putting in 60,000 in 2022. We are able to realize extra money in CIP. Therefore, we can do some extra CIP projects that were on Jack's priority list, 1, 2, and 3. So that is good news, as well as contingency put in there for 360,000 for the OPWC project, which is still to be determined if we will receive that. And again, if not, then we'll have 360,000 budgeted for other projects. The Edwards Road money is budgeted in there. Let's see, the money to initiate the Leafy Dell and North Main traffic circle is budgeted. It's 28,500 for 2022. And a new Western plow truck, or I'm sorry, a new Ford F550 plow truck is budgeted, and that is to plow the new roads. Is that correct? Well, not new, but 62 and
All the roads.
37.
No,
All the roads.
Actually,
Okay.
the large plow truck last year was purchased. We will take over in 2023 to plow 62 and 37.
Okay.
This is a replacement of a 10-year-old vehicle
Oh, okay.
for normal operation.
So that is included in the budget as well. And aside from CIP and revenues, are there any other questions about, well, I can go to the overview. I don't want to bore everybody again about what's in the budget, but
Finance isn't boring, Dana.
I don't think it is. So we're looking at our general fund having an ending balance at 12/31/22 of $107,000. The street maintenance fund is going to be just even with more expenses going in there as we grow our street department. We're also going to be supplementing some of that with money from the county that is held in by the county for our benefit from the permissive motor vehicle license tax.
But that would even be less than what we had projected because of the delayed start time of the additional street employees. So we've already realized additional carryover for 2023, and we haven't even started 2022 yet.
We're continuing to place money every year into the employee fund, which is the reserve account for the 27th payroll. So whenever that happens, it's not happening next year, but I haven't looked much further into the future. It might happen in 2023, but we are still collecting money in that fund so that we can pay those extra funds whenever that does come around. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Dana? Anyhow, we have to do a public hearing. So I'm going to open the public hearing on ordinance 47-2021. If there's any comments, questions?
Yes.
Jeff Barr, 181 South Main Street. Can you talk a little more about the traffic circle at 62 and Leafy Dell? Is that going to be a roundabout? Is the intent? Yeah.
That's- That's the way that it's being
But
planned.
it's not due to be funded until
25.
25. Because there are county funds involved.
County and state funds, I
And
believe, are involved.
All
with
of
that.
those partners, we don't get the money until FY 25.
Yes.
But this, we have to start putting our money aside. And that's why there's money in this budget for what, 20-some thousand?
28,500
28,000
It's
that
the
we will put
engineering.
into that account
engineering.
so that it starts to build. As we look for our partners to put in their money in 25.
So is design and engineering 25 or is that construction, design and engineering all in 1 year? Do you know?
I think it'll probably end up being almost 2 years, but I think design and engineering will start in 25.
25, then 26 construction.
So the way that we did it, knowing that we wanted to have something there, is we asked for a roundabout, which has the higher dollar amount tied to it, knowing that if we changed our mind and wanted to back down to a signal, you can always say you don't want money rather than ask for more money.
Sure.
And so at this point, we're marching toward the roundabout with the understanding that if we get another year down the road or two, when really the engineering should start and we feel like it's not feasible for whatever reason, we can always back that down. But the goal of the budget was to at least start putting some money aside for these things
Okay.
so that we didn't bite it all out at once. So next year, that 20-some thousand won't be expended until I think 23. We just have it sitting there now. Next year, I think our total buy-in for this is somewhere in the neighborhood of $350 or $400,000. So over the next couple of years, we'll take out some bigger chunks,
Great.
contingent upon us moving toward that roundabout and not a signal.
Thanks for the update. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anyhow, if there's no other comment, I will close the public hearing. And questions from council on ordinance 47-2021. Any comments, questions? Further comments, further questions? Hearing none. Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Do we make a motion?
Or I guess we got to make a motion first.
Second, please.
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 47-2021.
Now second?
Cheryl seconds. Now, Teresa, you're on.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Ms. Hendren,
Yes.
Mr. Linger.
Yes.
Mr. Block,
Yes.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Robertson.
Yes.
I want to thank everybody uh, for this budget and the passage of this budget. As from time to time, I have to be on these calls with mayors from around Ohio. And I can tell you, my ears turn blue when they talk about their lack of funds and the lack of being able to budget properly. We, however, are in a unique and a great position, thanks to everybody's involvement, the staff, the council, and I just want to thank you all for putting us in that position. Our citizens can be very proud of where we stand financially. And not every town or city in Ohio can say that. So it's with a debt of gratitude that I thank everybody up here and all of our staff. And this is a momentous occasion to pass this budget tonight. And I want to thank you. So we'll move on. Now that the budget's done. Next up is ordinance 50-2021, an ordinance enacting chapter 194 of the city of Johnstown's codified ordinances to establish a transient occupancy tax. Who's gonna lead us through? Ben, are you doing this one or somebody?
Dana's looking. at me.
Dana?
I did put it together based on another community's ordinance. And this was introduced last time to just create a tax for lodging and hotel motel lodging within Johnstown.
And it was introduced last time. Tonight, we're gonna do a public hearing and a vote. And so I will open the public hearing. Hearing any questions? Yeah, it's so we have a record.
Whatever's collected, what bucket is it going into? You know, some cities provide it for Visitor and Convention Bureau, et cetera. Can you speak to
Yes.
that, whomever?
Yes, I can.
Thank
The
you.
entire excise tax pursuant to ORC 5739.08A shall be deposited into the general fund. There is an additional excise tax collected pursuant to subsection B of that ordinance or of that code, where 50% of that is deposited into Johnstown Visitors Bureau Fund, which will be, which is hereby created by this ordinance. And the rest of it goes into the general fund.
Do you have a projected estimate on what it bring in?
I don't. We don't know. I don't know if any lodging has taken place at this point at the one place that we have.
We just have
Lodging.
3 rooms, so it's not going to be a big fundraiser.
Not a
It's
big-
not.
It'll be
no.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
To
The
clarify,
Holiday Inn gets their building up.
what we've done within planning and zoning and here is defined hotel as anything 5 units or more, and transient accommodations is anything 4 units or less. And that is in line with the ORC, who previously didn't have that. In doing that, ORC allows the excise tax that the county enacts at 3%. That happens with 5 units or more. So that's where half of that goes to the county, which they then take half of that, split it up, and then half of it goes down their pipeline. We'll take the other half, and that half will be split between general fund and the Visitors Bureau, if I'm saying that right. And then 100% of 4 units or less, the transient accommodations, because there isn't an excise tax that the county has the ability to enact, stays within Johnstown at that point. So it's just a designation of how it's split up based on whether it's 4 units or less or 5 units or more. But essentially it goes to either a general fund or it goes to a Visitors Bureau within the county.
And the county tax goes to Explore Licking County, and that's how their activities are funded. I'm pleased to sit on that board, and if you have not seen their new booklet is coming out. And if you have not seen, it was on Facebook. They did an excellent introduction. Johnstown is featured prominently in that introduction with not only the Mastodon, but Ghost Rider and lots of beautiful views of our city. And they did a wonderful job. And I haven't seen the book yet, but I understand it's nice too. So we thank them for their efforts. And if you haven't seen the video, be sure to look at it because I'm really proud of it. And they did a wonderful job for us. And it's nice to have partners that go a step above and do the right thing. So anyhow, back to, so tonight we have to have a public hearing and a vote.
Mhm.
So I'm going to need a motion. I guess we'll do the motion first, so we don't forget to do that.
Cheryl should do that.
Okay, yes. I move to pass ordinance 50-2021.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. So now we can have a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wants to make comments? Now's the time. If not, I will close the public hearing and we'll move, and council members who may have questions or comments.
I just appreciate Dana taking it on to pull this down and put it all together. It's pulled from Upper Arlington, is the municipality that we pulled it from.
I don't think we're going to have as many hotels, motels as Upper Arlington, but
So,
you know, there's always a future out there. So anyhow, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to move now, since no council members have questions or comments. I'll move to a vote, and Teresa, will you call the roll?
Sharon Hendren,
yes.
Doug Lanner,
Yes.
Robin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson.
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher.
Yes. Okay, next up is resolution 2021-58. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Licking County Board of Commissioners for reimbursement of legal counsel for indigent defendants for the city of Johnstown, Licking County, Ohio. This is something we pass every year. It basically pays for indigent fees that have to be paid, and under the Ohio Public Defender Commission. And so tonight is an introduction, a public hearing, and a vote. So is there anybody have any questions or comments, or want to make a motion so we can move this thing along?
I move the motion.
I'll second.
Great. Been moved and seconded. I'm going to open a public hearing. If anybody has any comments about this, This basically pays bills for people who can't pay their bills.
Yeah.
And to the county. So if there's no comment, I will close the public hearing. I will, questions for comments from council members? Hearing none. Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Chuck Leonard,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren.
Yes.
Next up is resolution 2021-59. A resolution, excuse me, a resolution declaring the official intent and reasonable expectations of the city of Johnstown on behalf of the state of Ohio, the borrower, to reimburse its capital improvements fund for the Oregon Street Reconstruction Phase 3 project, or as I call it, the Eternal Project. CQ 36X and CQ 37X with the proceeds of tax exempt debt of the state of Ohio. This is, in other words, this is so we can get reimbursed from the OPWC for funds that were expended on behalf of this project. And that's basically what this does. Tonight, we're going to have an introduction, public hearing, and a vote.
I didn't understand that, Chip. Could you read it one more time?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah,
Anyhow, we got, OPWC gave us 349,000 and there's money that's due back to us and we will be claiming that. And this basically allows us to do that.
Yes.
So we're gonna have a public hearing. Well, first somebody would like to introduce this thing.
I'll move to approve.
Move it and second it. In a second?
A second.
Okay. So anyhow, we will have open it for a public hearing. Hearing no comment, we will close the public hearing. And council members, any questions, comments, et cetera, about this? This is basically so we can get our money back on what they owe us.
Project looks really nice.
Yeah, finally. It's only 2 years after we thought it would be done, but Oregon Street moves slow. Anyhow, so
It did with the potholes at
But it
least.
looks good.
it looks good. So anyhow, we will move ahead and I will ask Teresa to call the roll.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson.
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher.
Yes.
Sharon Hendren.
Yes.
Chuck Leonard.
Yes.
Okay. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the conclusion of formal business for 2021. It's been a wonderful year. I want to thank everybody. And we're going to move to executive session to consider, we're going to do 2 executive sessions back to back. And we would ask, I want Jack involved.
I have just a couple things on other business.
Oh, okay, we'll do other business
before we
first.
jump in there.
Okay, I'm just trying to move ahead.
And I want you to. I have had some conversation with Pulte. And I think I need to bring this out to council. I guess some time ago, there was a joint meeting between Pulte and the village, and there was this discussion of the roadway going through Altera to the Wendy's Light. And I think the initial conversation was Altera was open to it, but right away would have to be purchased, and it's decided, is the road correct? Is the depth of the asphalt correct? And in my discussions with Pulte over the last couple of days, they are willing, if Johnstown wants to give money in lieu of the light. We don't know how much money that is.
Right.
To strengthen and maintain the road.
Through
However,
Altera.
yes.
Okay.
Through Altera. However, they are not wanting to be the ones to negotiate with Altera how wide the road needs to be, how much the take would be. They said that is not really what they want to do, but they are willing, if Johnstown wants to step forward and do those negotiations, and then apply the money to Johnstown for the upgrading of the road. If Johnstown does not want to do that, they are compelled and know it is their responsibility to jump in and get the light design done and into our engineers. So I told Matt from Pulte that I would get with council. Now that I have clarification on, I guess this meeting was many, many months ago. And I want council to understand, if we go with the one light picture, taking everything up to Wendy's, that they would expect us to do the negotiation with Altera, because it's not really their job to do that. Their job is to put a light in and a proper exit from their development. So does council have interest in a negotiation with Altera that then we would have to open up, which then would be holding them up from getting the light in while we would be doing negotiations? Or do you want me to get back with Matt, go full forward with your light and intersection work and get it to us to review?
Council members?
I got a question for you on that, Jack.
Okay.
I think you forwarded some of that to me. And it seemed to me like they thought that Johnstown was going to pay part of that.
No, they know they have full responsibility for design, construction, and installation. With my conversation with Matt, the previous emails back and forth, it did seem somewhat confusing. But to the bottom line of where I got was, if Johnstown would rather to go through the Wendy's light, we have to do the negotiation with Altera, then they'll just give us the cost of the light to upgrade the road. If we have no interest in that, they are not going to negotiate with Altera. It's not in their bailiwick, but they will move full ahead in getting us the design on the light at the end of Bigelow.
Well,
They want us to negotiate with their money?
No, their money is whatever the cost of that light and intersection would be. And if Johnstown would rather have
Okay.
cash,
So they're gonna, I see.
And
then
go
we just
through
take it
Altera.
through, and then anything above and beyond would come from us,
yes.
depending on what we get.
Yes, that is
All right.
correct. But negotiations with Altera probably would take some time. And they don't want to go forward and spend money on design of a light if there's, although they do have to have that number, because that's the number of cash we would want. So my question to council is, do we want them to go ahead with what the original plan was? I mean, way back when that thing was all plotted out, that there would be a light at the end of Bigelow? Or do you want the village to talk with Altera, see what it would take to, because we would have to purchase that,
Oh, I know.
and then we would have to upgrade it. But it would eliminate a light at the end of Bigelow. So which direction would, and we'll have expense in it that way. It's
Yeah.
time and attorneys versus them just putting the light in at Bigelow. Which alternative would council like me to pursue?
Well, if they go with the light that we require, that's going to be more than 178,000.
Absolutely.
2 toothpicks and a string.
Well, and of course, that's our first shot at the, I understand that where it come through, and we sent Bailey, we found the written specs that we required with ODOT for the upgrade of the Wendy's light. That was sent to them. And also they know there's going to have to be some restructuring. Our engineers will have to approve their installation. So yeah, that was their first dart at the wall, and we all smile and we move forward from there.
I think Altera is going to be easy to negotiate with, because I initiated a conversation with them if they would entertain that. And then Jim was supposed to talk to them too.
Yes.
I
However,
understand.
that has not moved forward since that time.
Well, is it worth having another conversation with Altera, see if
Oh, I
the
think-
interest
I
is
would-
there and
I believe if the
And,
council would rather route it that direction. Now, please
I
Please
think,
know this. I will also need to enlist our engineering firm to get us proper road width, access, egress,
right,
through there coming off the light in the entrance. And what it would take to get it up to road. There's difference between parking lot grade and road grade. So I would have to expend some money, a village to get how much right away we need, widths, strength of asphalt. So
think
we will expend a little money while we're trying to find
It's
this
worth
out.
trying to,
But I like that idea, Jack, but since Pulte approached us, asking us to do that, they also need to know that any expense that Johnstown puts out for that negotiation will be expected to be reimbursed for.
Pulte did not approach us with that. That was the village approaching them. Would you,
Done that a long time.
would you rather give us cash so we can eliminate one light in that short section? So I want to make that clear. The village approached them, said, hey, would you be interested in doing that instead of creating a light? So I do not, good thought, but I do not think since we approached them and said, would you rather do this, that we can ask them for those fees? Because they are more than willing to do their design, in my conversation yesterday, to do their design and stick it out at the end of Bigelow and move forward now.
Before we make a decision, do we know if Altera is still willing to do this,
that's
work
what we
with
got,
us?
that's what we gotta
I
find out.
don't know how many months, Marvin, do you know how many months ago that initial conversation
Early
was?
summer.
I was gonna say.
Okay, because according to Matt, you know, he believed that the village was going to get with Altera, how much width, how much right away. And
Happen.
it
Well, I
did
think
not-
we
it did
have
not
to have
happen.
a preliminary conversation with Altera just to make sure that this is something they would entertain.
Right.
We thought that once they found out that Altera would talk to them, that they would talk. We didn't know that Pulte didn't want to talk to them.
Well, it's, they're more than willing to give the alternative funds, but they said their time and cost for negotiations, and what if they purchase an amount of right of way and then the village doesn't agree to that right of way? I do understand their concern that if we're gonna take it and we're gonna make a right of way out of it, we need to have it built to our specifications and widths. Now, I don't think we'd have a terrible lot of money tied up in an engineer telling us how much room we need and how we'd have to build that up, but it's going to be something for a study. But I think step one is Altera still interested.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Step two, get
Engineer.
our engineer out there to give us a preliminary design on what it's going to take and the right of way widths and the traffic pattern itself.
Step 3 is going back to
And step
Pulte.
3 is going back to Pulte and
saying
saying,
this is the number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does Pulte realize approximately how much the light's gonna cost if we require?
well, like I said, they sent out that 178,000, but we know down, we know it's closer to $500,000. Just because of
The arms.
the arms and stuff like that that we have in town. We know that Sportsman's Club initially was 1.1, but a lot of that was straightening the road. That was not 100% light. Bailey, I don't have a number on the top of my head of the last decorative light that was put in, but it's probably closer to $500,000 than it is 200,000.
I thought it was more than $500,000 for that went out Kroger's.
Yeah. I've been involved in this kind of edges. And last time I had a conversation with Altera, they were not interested in it. And to add a little bit more information, and to buy a home in Creekside, Missouri, we're told that there will be traffic. And they're still telling buyers that there'll be traffic. And put it to the people that work in models home, there's already a traffic problem at certain times of the day. If you want to go towards New Albany, it backs all the way up to the Gulch. People who live there aren't happy about that.
Okay, I have not seen that back up to McDonald's and there at different times,
And Hopewell has also.
but I have seen it. I have seen it at Hopewell. So last, or at least the information I got, because I was not on the initial conversation with Altera, is just what I think Marvin said, that they were open to the idea. So with that piece of information, you still want me to move forward with a conversation with
Yes.
Altera?
Yeah. And
I have a question on
And
the
that would be
process.
part of the engineering, look, no, this traffic isn't going to work.
Yeah, and as far as whatever Pulte is telling from their model home, that doesn't hold any weight with us. And they'll just have to go with whatever is the final decision.
Instead of getting the engineer, our engineer estimate as number 2, it seems to me we would want to get the cash equivalent number from Pulte to know what we're starting with.
Well, there, here again, we just sent them all the specs. We sent them the ODOT specs the other day that we thought they had. Now we've sent them the light specs. And then also, installation costs and things like that. And then it has to be reviewed by our engineers.
In my opinion, I think we need to get Pulte's estimate from Pulte before we give Johnstown's estimate to Pulte. Or before we get Johnstown's estimate of what that's going to be. I just think we need to know what our top side
I'm
is.
sorry, I'm confused. What estimate are we giving?
From what the engineers are saying,
Well, I didn't necessarily think we need to give that to Pulte. That's our information.
I would just think that we would want to get, I don't see how Pulte doesn't design the intersection in any of these scenarios so that we have an idea of what that cash equivalent is.
And I think they need to continue to design so they know what
Okay.
the cash number is.
It sounded to me like
They'll
they,
have that tomorrow.
it sounded to me like they wanted this scenario so they didn't have to go through that
They
process.
can't do that because they won't have the cash equivalent.
Until we
They
tell
just
them.
won't pay for the installation. They would give it to Johnstown.
Yeah.
So what I think is Altera interested? If they are,
If they're not, then it's.
we talked to our engineers to look at it to get what our engineers think it would cost us. That's not their information, it's us. Then we compare that to what their
Okay.
cost is on the light.
But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they weren't just getting an arbitrary number on what they think the light was
No,
going to
they
be,
have,
because
they have to move forward.
I didn't see a scenario where they weren't going to have to design that anyway.
But I think what I'd like, Marvin, do you know who you talked with from Altera?
Brad, wasn't it?
I think his name was Brad. You have to call over there and you can't, it's hard to get through the secretary unless you tell her you're the man.
Okay, that's okay.
Kitchen?
Yeah.
Brad
Brad
Kitchen, that's
Kitchen.
it.
I think we can,
Just
He's a
have a
nice guy.
conversation.
if Jim Blair is correct and they said they have no interest in having that happen, then that question's done and we move forward.
I think Brad was very interested.
What's that, Bailey?
Oh, that came after?
Okay. Well,
They said
let's
that they would
have-
be
have a
open.
Conversation with Brad
Altera.
and we'll go from there.
And I understand exactly what you're saying, Ben, but why they're working forward on
That's
getting
fine.
a light number. And our engineer will have to agree with that light
Yeah.
number. We can also be getting a number on what it would take to bring that up to a
That's fine.
traffic ready.
I must have misunderstood then. That's fine.
Okay.
And that's wonderful, Bailey, because we had to look and find where those specs were at, and we need to get that in our standard set files. So, thank you.
Additional business.
Yes. one
Yes,
more.
Jack.
Redwood Homes, as we know, we have a Redwood development.
Yes.
They are looking at another piece of ground in Johnstown. They would like, do you have that, Bailey? Can we throw that up on the screen or? Okay.
What is it they want to do?
They want to build, I think, well, I shouldn't say that. They want to meet to discuss this set of property and what possibly they can put in there. We are meeting with them tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Not to give any answers, yes, no, or indifferent, just to see what their plan is or what they would like to do in this area. We need to see if it will meet our current zoning or what the zoning would have to be changed. So this is purely informational. Just want to make council aware that we are going to have a conversation tomorrow with absolutely no decisions, just information.
And
to bring
they
back.
haven't said what it is they want to build there. Of what they have now, similar.
What is that?
Where's that at? Behind Denny Dotson.
SR?
And of course, they're gonna have to deal with how they access the property.
Mhm.
Where is this property? I'm trying to.
Behind Denny Dotson.
Behind Denny Dotson.
Oh, okay.
They have the contract.
Okay.
Better have their conversation tomorrow to figure out what they,
Well, what the zoning would have to change to, what it would
What
have
it
to
is.
be. I'm sure.
I mean,
I'm not sure, but you would think the contract would be contingent.
they run a good place and so.
I
we'll
will,
have
I
to
will say
see
that the
what-
Redwood Apartments, I have to go in there frequently, up and through in that area. You do keep it clean. It is a good place. It's a higher rent area, and we don't seem to have any trouble in there. As far as policing, do we have any trouble in the Redwood areas, chief?
Yeah, we do have some issues there, but I believe that they have since lost their unit.
Okay,
But I think I believe we had a home invasion and then we also had a pursuit out of that same subdivision this year.
Was it multiple different apartments, or was it kind of
Just-
the same area?
Just the one apartment.
Okay, all right.
But I mean, I echo what you say. When I drive through there, it's a nice community, very well kept, and it looks like the residents communicate well
We
amongst each
have
other.
any idea how many units they're talking about?
I don't at this.
In
80.
general, just,
How many acres is there, Bailey?
okay.
I didn't really say.
You can get that information tomorrow. That'd be
Yeah,
helpful.
I
We
think
go
tomorrow
ahead
is a
and
very
move
big
ahead.
information.
Yeah, just share info and
For us and
don't
sharing
make any
information.
commitments.
Oh,
Go
no,
from
no, there will be no commitments.
They did the same thing in Pasco. They built one, and it was a big success. So, I mean, within a half a mile, we built another one on the other side of 310.
Our goal here is to make sure council is aware of all inquiries.
We love that.
That we get.
We love that.
We like to find out what's.
Anyhow, other business.
I'm done now.
Okay.
Okay.
Any council members, other business? Staff, other business? Hearing none, we're going to move to executive session 1. And I'm going to thank everybody for coming and let you all leave. And we're going to have Jack involved, Teresa involved, Chief, I guess we need you there. I think that's it.
Mhm.
And we will, Ryan, and you can join us too. And we will then go into immediately as we conclude that one, we will go into executive session number 2. And as soon as we conclude that business, which is about compensation, we will adjourn. And that will be it for 2021. So that's the plan. Thank you all very much for coming. Ryan, if you'll stay. Chief, if you'll stay.
Yes, Mayor.
Teresa. I think that gets us through it.
We need a motion.
Yes, I need a motion.
I move to move into executive session.
Thank you. We have a second.
I'll second.
Sharon seconds. Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I'm not paying attention.
Sharon,
Sharon.
Yes.
I'm ready to get out of here.
yes.
Yes.